Hi, everyone.
My last sip of water before I start talking.
Just wait
Final
our
week.
usual couple of minutes. I know, the final week.
Well, final week for now. We will be back.
Yes.
I'll probably start right at 12 so we can hopefully finish by 12:30 this time.
You know, once again, we have a lot to say.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
A lot to say on this snowy morning.
Okay, it is 12, so I will start and people will trickle in. So welcome back, everyone. Week 4 of our weight management webinar series, or those of you who are new, welcome. You're tuning in at a good time. We're really going to it's going to be a lot of a wrap up today because we've touched on a lot of goal setting strategies over the last few weeks, but today we'll really dive into it so you can have some strategies going forward. You know, how can you really create change and keep it going? So yeah, so if you've ever struggled to stay consistent, which we all have, you know, or you've set goals in the past but maybe lost steam, today you'll learn why that happens. And maybe there's something in our goal setting strategy we need to restructure to make sure it fits our lifestyle. So again, I don't even think I introduced myself, but I'm Kristen Turnbull, registered dietitian and Thrive Health Coach, and then Carly Smolik, also dietitian and health coach with Thrive Health Coaching. And we will talk about how to contact us at the end if you're interested in doing coaching. So as per usual, we'll go over what we're going to talk about today. So we'll do a review of the first few weeks. We'll try and keep it short and sweet. We'll talk on why goal setting actually matters. Why is that a huge piece when it comes to weight management? We'll talk about the difference between an outcome goal and a process goal, setting SMART goals, which I know we've all heard of, finding your why. So what drives you to want to create change? We'll chat about the circle of control. So what do we actually have control over in our day-to-day lives versus what we don't have control over? We'll go through the stages of change, a nice habit overview, which we've kind of touched on each week. We'll talk about setbacks because they're very normal and they're part of the process. So we'll go over that. And then we'll talk a little on how to apply some of these strategies to your week going forward. And of course, any questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll try and get to them at the end. Just an opening quote, becoming the best version of yourself comes with a lot of goodbyes. So really, it's whenever we grow, something has to be released, essentially, right? So sometimes that's an old belief or an old habit or an outdated version of ourselves. So it's really important to just think right now, like what's one thing you may need to say goodbye to moving forward? It could be negative self-talk. It could be the all or nothing thinking, using food as a coping strategy. We've talked about that last week. But really just this quote really sums up how creating change is easier said than done, right? And we know that we really have to let go of who we were if we want to really advance forward. Okay, Carly, you'll take us off with the review.
Yes, so I'm not going to spend too much time on the review because all of our previous webinars have been recorded and they are posted on our Thrive Health Coaching intranet site for you to go look at. And we've been talking about this for so much. Just some of the points I'd like to make from week 1 and the other webinars. We talk a lot about mindset. I'm sure you didn't come into this weight loss webinar thinking we were going to talk so much about psychology, but your diet mindset versus health mindset, your diet identity versus health identity, it's really important, you know, along with the quote Kristen just said about saying goodbyes. You have to say goodbye to being a person who's on a diet or a person who's losing weight. You need to say hello to a person who's building healthy habits a healthy foundation for life. That's a very important mindset switch. Staying in the diet mindset will likely keep you stuck and on the yo-yo dieting cycle. Relationship with food is very important. We talked about food neutrality, which is an important place to be. And your diet culture, let go of all the diet culture beliefs. You have to know your current habits. We have lots of resources now on our health coaching intranet site too that can help you dive into your own habits. Balance your plate, protein and fiber. If you know us, we are talking about protein and fiber all the time. That's kind of a non-negotiable when it comes to eating. And the timing of your eating, shifting more of your eating early is helpful. And just tracking your habits, being aware of what you're doing and when you're doing it is very important. In week 2, we talked about meal planning. This is something else that really is key for, managing weight and any kind of health goal, just planning ahead so that you have the right foods on hand for when you are making those food decisions. Making the food decisions earlier on really helps set you up for better choices once, your busy day starts. It's really hard to prep things and make decisions when you're in the middle of a busy work day or busy family day or what have you. So again, keeping in mind the mix and match theory of just get a good protein, get a good fiber containing carb, add some non-starchy vegetables. That is a perfect formula for building a snack or a meal. And again, this plate resource is on our website with all of the different sources of lean proteins, fiber, and non-starchy vegetables listed alongside it. And week 3, last week, we talked about emotional eating. This is something I think we can all relate to. It's really important that you understand your habit loops. Where are your triggers and what is your normal response? Because again, your brain is building pathways. Your brain makes you do what you repeat. So if you're repeating behaviors and repeating patterns, that's your habit loop. So it's really important to understand what your cues and triggers are and what your responses are and where you can break that cycle. There's other alternative coping tools. And again, like Kristen said, this is easier said than done, but the first step is recognizing what your habits are and recognizing where you're able to break the cycle. And we love this quote too. Big changes start with actions that are too small to fail. Again, we're in February now. So a lot of people, by this point kind of abandon a lot of the New Year's resolutions because we set these goals that are so big that they're really impossible for us to do, and they're not realistic. So we keep preaching small goals, one thing at a time. You have to make sure your goals fit into your life and not the other way around. You can't make your life fit into a big goal. That's not realistic. You have to make the goals fit into your life. And Kristen's going to tell us about lots of goal setting strategies.
Yes. And why goal setting actually matters, because this is a topic that maybe is, I don't want to say ignored in, weight management day to day, but I think we forget, like, oh, right, I have to really think about what process I want to put in place to get me from point A to point B. So we know that when goals aren't clear, so if we don't really have specific clear actions, the brain defaults to just the easiest, most familiar behavior. And so when you think about it, goal setting is important because it activates that reward circuit, which we talked about, I think every week we talk about the reward circuit. But every time you complete a small little goal, you get that dopamine hit, and that reinforces the behavior. So it's the same idea when you're working towards new or changing your habits. So why it matters. So number 1, provides clear direction. So instead of guessing, what do I eat? How much should I be moving? A clear goal might be, okay, I'm going to add Greek yogurt and nuts to my fruit in the morning at breakfast, Monday through Friday. That is a specific and clear direction. So now your brain has a cue and it has a plan. And then it also increases commitment. So concrete goals create purpose and accountability. So having something specific to work towards actually boosts that follow through. I'm walking for 20 minutes after dinner because I committed to it. It's, part of the plan, not something I do when I'm only feeling motivated. And so you can kind of picture what success looks like because you're committed to it and you can really measure whether you're doing it or not. And then building healthy routines. When you set small, realistic goals, you make consistent action more likely. So consistency is what rewires your brain and builds new patterns. And then makes progress measurable. So we talked a little bit about this each week, but sometimes you might feel like you're failing on a goal when in reality, you're just not tracking your progress and you're not seeing how many days out of the week you're eating protein at breakfast or how many days out of the week you're getting in your steps. It's really important to track your progress. And when you have visible progress, it increases your confidence. Like, oh, I'm reflecting on my Fitbit or whatever, my Apple Watch, and I'm noticing I'm hitting my steps more this week than last week. That feels good. I'm going to keep going, right? You have to find a way to track. And then it helps you identify barriers earlier. So goal setting encourages reflection on obstacles like time, stress, environment. You might notice, oh, I notice when I'm stressed from work, that's when the nighttime eating gets really difficult. Or on Tuesday mornings when it's chaos in my household, that's when I skip breakfast. You kind of start to pick up on this stuff. And then you can make strategies to get around that. And then it supports long-term behavior change, of course, right? Because we're creating small, realistic goals that gradually shift your identity. I'm not someone on a diet. I am someone who looks after myself. I get out for walks every day. I prioritize eating breakfast, those types of identities. And then on the right, you can see this is the process you go through when you're setting goals and taking action, right? So you start with at the very bottom where it says, what do I want? Like, what is the big overall goal of achievement, clarify the desired outcome, your big picture question. And then you go through, well, why do I want it? And we'll talk a lot more on this today, but understanding the why behind your goals connects to a personal meaning. And that step is really essential because motivation usually fades if the why isn't meaningful. So that's a really important question to ask yourself. And then you look at what is getting in the way. Again, identifying barriers before they become roadblocks. Everyone has barriers also, it's very normal. And then you look at what can you change. So we're going to have a whole slide on this too, but focusing on what you can control versus what you can't control. And that helps you create your SMART goal, which we'll also talk about. But it's really important to be specific with what goals we're setting so we know how to move forward. And so then we take action. And we dive into things and we're just going for it instead of waiting, right? We just take action and try. And then again, we track progress, we be consistent, even if we have a setback or a day off. And then we take time to reflect and reassess. So this is kind of the whole process we go through with our goal setting. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what do you really want and why do you want it? And that helps kickstart everything else that falls into play. And so reaching your goals. So we all know this, but small habits do create big results. So it might seem very small in the beginning, but over time, it really creates that change. And especially with weight, it comes really just from repeating these tiny little, might seem boring, repetitive habits, but that's what makes the progress show in the end. And the brain really likes small, achievable steps. Like every day, I'm just going to have my breakfast, going to make sure to add this in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and add this Thursday, Friday. You have a very specific plan in place. And habits rely on cues, not motivation. We have to just start. We can't wait for motivation because that's just a feeling. So motivation is temporary, but cues and routines create consistency. So this is a classic one. If you're trying to move more, you put your workout clothes where it's visible. You have your shoes by your desk, whatever you need to do, reducing the friction. So making habits easy. Sticky notes on your doorknob to not forget your lunch, or having your water bottle in front of you. Set it up by your coffee pot so you remind yourself, oh right, when I drink coffee, I've got to get my water in. Little things like that. And then reward reinforces the habit loop. So positive reinforcement boosts that dopamine and again encourages repetition. So it's important to celebrate your progress, maybe not with food, right? But we want to choose to make sure you're patting yourself on the back for all the effort you are making. It's really, really important. And then habits turn goals from wishful thinking into daily action. That is kind of a summary of why this is so important. And so you might have heard of this. Anyone who joined our January webinar on goal setting, something very similar, we talked the difference between outcome goals and process goals. So outcome goals are very much the end result. What do I want to achieve? Maybe it's losing weight, getting off medications, lowering your A1C. But it doesn't really tell you much. It doesn't give you any guidance. It's just the end result you're hoping to get to. And that can be very frustrating and overwhelming when you're setting goals and you're not in control of the outcome because so much can go on that you can't control. But when you think of the process goal, it takes your outcome goal and breaks it down into steps. So it's focusing on the habits and behaviors that lead you to the outcome from point A to point B. It's actionable. You're in control of the process. And that way, again, you can track it and you know which direction you're going. So sometimes it can be very overwhelming to just think, oh my gosh, I have, X, Y, or Z weight to lose. Okay, let's break it down. How can we really day by day implement some strategies that get you there over time? Process goals set you up for success. As we love to say, it's important that tomorrow you thanks you today for doing something for tomorrow, because we all know sometimes it's just putting the effort in. Then once it's in, you're off to the races. And then SMART goals. We've all heard of SMART goals. And sometimes it's more so, okay, how do I actually implement these? How do I start to structure creating these SMART goals? So it's an acronym and it really helps turn the vague goal into a clear, actionable, achievable goal. So specific, what exactly will you do? And it should be clear, detailed, focused, not too broad or vague. So an example here, I will start walking after dinner on weekdays. It may be outside or inside my home, depending on the weather. That's your specific goal. You want to move more. Is it measurable? How will you know you did it? So a goal needs a way to stay or track progress and know whether it's been achieved. Okay, I will walk for 20 minutes, 5 days a week. That's your measured goal. And then attainable. Is it realistic for your lifestyle with your resources, with your schedule, making sure it fits in with you and your day to day? Is it relevant? Yes, it is relevant. This action is relevant to my long-term outcome goals of weight loss and overall health. Perfect. And then time bound. So how long are you going to do this? And then when are you going to reassess or just kind of stop and see, is this working for me? So in this example, I plan to do this for 4 weeks, see how I feel. Then I'll reassess. If you have an off day, I'll get back on track the following day. Like setting yourself up so you know what that future 4 weeks will look like. And let's say the 4 weeks comes and you think, oh, I did that. That was great. I really enjoyed doing that. Now I'm going to bump it. And I'm going to say, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Right? That's your time to reassess. And then you can reset your SMART goal. And then finding your why. This is huge. Carly and I love talking about this one because a goal is just a goal when you think about it. But if you have a meaning and a drive behind why it matters, it allows you to really make some progress and to start taking action. So most goals do fail because they're based on what you think you should do rather than what truly matters to you. And this is a huge one if you tend to maybe chat with friends or family around their goals. You think, oh, well, if that's your goal, that should be my goal too. Like, but it has to be something that means something to you. So finding your goal or finding your why, helps uncover the deeper reason that fuels long-term success. And it really reveals those personal drivers. So an example, if your goal was, I want to lose 40 pounds this year, but then you think, what's my why? What drives me to want this? And here are some examples. I want to lose 40 pounds this year because I want to feel confident again and comfortable in my own skin. And maybe it's I want to have more energy so I can keep up with my kids or my grandkids. Be a better role model for your family. Maybe that's something that really drives you. reduce stress, take better care of myself, be able to do activities you've been avoiding. Maybe that's what it is. Because sometimes we forget, like, weight is just, it's not just a vanity thing. It's, it's your health and it's your happiness and confidence, right? And that all drives wanting to take action. So if you would like, you don't have to, but if you want to just pop in the chat, any of your whys, why do you keep showing up week to week for these webinars? Why does it matter to you? It doesn't have to relate to weight, could be anything, but just kind of think, like, what could achieving your goals really change in your life? Just think about that, and you can pop it in the chat and we can review them later, or if anyone pipes up, Carly, I can't see for some reason, so let me know. But yeah, so just something to think about. Think about your why. Oh, yeah. Carly, back to you.
Yes, yes. So important to have that personal reason why you're doing this, besides my doctor told me to. So we're just going to talk about a couple tools that we have posted on our website for you also to use. And the word ambivalence. So sometimes, in our everyday language, ambivalence means you're indifferent, you don't care. In this situation, we're talking about health coaching and wellness. Ambivalence actually means you're stuck. You're stuck in old behaviors because doing the same thing feels easier and manageable. And making a change seems too difficult and overwhelming, even though the current behavior may or may not be good for you. So, you have to ask yourself, are you ambivalent about some of your habits? And by now, we hope that you've really given a lot of thought to your daily habits and behaviors, and you're identifying habits that are not aligned with your health goals and habits that are aligned with your health goals. So here's the ambivalence tool that is available on our Thrive Health Coaching website for you to look at. And, identifying one behavior in particular, and I like to use the example of mindless eating after dinner. So maybe that's a behavior you've identified as not aligned with health goals, and you would like to work on changing that, and that can be tricky. But it seems you've been stuck in this behavior for so long. So this is basically a pros and cons list where you're identifying the reasons for staying as is, not making a change, and you're identifying the reasons to make a change. And sometimes it's really helpful to see it all listed out. And other tools we have, these are the readiness for change scales. So first is the importance level for change. So thinking about, again, habits, behaviors, how important is it to me personally that I change this mindless evening snacking behavior? Or how important is it that I quit smoking? Or how important is it that I cut down on alcohol? So, different habits are going to have different levels of importance for you personally, and that can help you narrow down where you're going to get started. And then the confidence level, this is really important because we make a lot of broad goals that we're actually not confident that we can do, so for many reasons, they're not realistic. We don't feel ready. We don't feel like we know enough. So you also, that same behavior that you're talking about with the ambivalence tool and the readiness, the importance level scale, how confident are you that you can change this behavior? But again, the example of mindless snacking in the evening, how confident do I feel that I can change this behavior? And sometimes we rate ourselves really low. And again, there's no wrong answer on these. These are for your information only. And without judging yourself, you have to ask yourself why. Why did you rate yourself at that certain number? If it's a low on the confidence scale, what would make you feel more confident? More information or an accountability partner? What would make you more confident? Because sometimes something's really important for us to change, but we're not very confident that we can. So it's really important to see where you're at, and you need to check on yourself and again, identify the behaviors you'd like to change and how realistic you think it is that you'll be able to make those changes. So, but along with confidence doesn't mean you know everything. And a lot of people feel like they're never ready to get started to change their diet, change habits, because they don't have it all figured out. Confidence just means you're going to get started and you're going to figure it out along the way. That never means you know everything. It just means you're going to handle it. It doesn't mean you're confident you know all the things you need to know. You're confident it's going to go perfectly. You're confident you're never going to get off track. That's not realistic. Confidence just means you know you're going to handle it, whatever comes ahead of you. And we want you to feel confident. So the circus of control, or sometimes it's called the locus of control. Putting your energy into what you can control. There's so many things we cannot control that we really dwell on. You can't control how quickly you lose weight. I'm so sorry to tell you that. You can't control it. You can't control that rate of fat loss. You cannot control other people, what other people are choosing to do, what other people are acting on, how they respond to you or other people. You can't control the weather, can't control your age or your genetics. You cannot control the past. You have maybe some control over the future, but not a lot of control over the future sometimes. So keep in mind, don't dwell on the things you cannot control. Focus on what you can control. And that's how you make your process goals that Kristen talked about earlier. You can control what you eat. You can control how much you eat. You can control how you're thinking and your self-talk. You can control your habits, how consistent you are, how how much effort you put in, your daily movement. You have a lot of control. You have control over what you're looking at on social media. Control that algorithm. Please stop following any influencers that are talking about miracle weight loss solutions and trying to sell you supplements and plans. Just do away with them for at least a few weeks and reset that algorithm for sure. So focus on what you can control. And we love talking about the stages of change. This might be something you've studied before, the trans-theoretical model of change. Keep in mind that you are in charge of your change. You are the change agent. You are the driver of your bus. But change only happens when you are willing to make a change. So there's different stages of change, hence the title on the slide. The pre-contemplation stage is the very first stage where you're really not ready to change for different reasons. And this might have to do with wellness goals, professional goals, personal goals, all kinds of things. You're just either unaware that a change would even be helpful, or you're resistant. We run into that a lot. It's scary to think you have to give up foods and change your life, or you're just indifferent. Right now, you're just at this stage not seeing any kind of need for any change. The contemplation stage means, okay, you're thinking about change. You think this might be something that's good for you. You're going to look into the pros and cons, thinking back to that ambivalent tool. And you're not quite ready, though, to do anything, but you're thinking about it. The preparation stage is, okay, you've officially seen that a change would be really good for you. The pros outweigh the cons of, changing the behavior, and you're planning to take action soon. And the next stage is action, where you are taking action on these new behaviors and you intend to continue with these habits and behaviors. And maintenance stage means you've continued these behaviors and habits for a while. It's usually, we consider that around the 6-month mark, where it seems like it's part of your regular routine. And then the last one is the relapse stage, where this may or may not happen. It just means it's a return to previous behaviors. And that happens. It's not a failure. So don't let a little relapse turn into a whole week or month's worth of being off track. Again, just one meal, one food, one day is not going to make or break your health goals. So don't stay in the relapse period. This is not a failure. This is just something to recognize and make a plan for returning to the action stage. So that's really important, the stages of change, figuring out where you're at in your readiness for change. So every time you replace the thought of, oh, I need to think about this more, I'm not quite ready, replace that with, okay, I know enough to get started and I'll adjust as I go. That's how your brain builds new circuits and helps you develop more habits. So we like this little graphic where a lot of people are, oh, it's just not the right time. I'm waiting for the right time. I'll do it on Monday. I'll do it next month. It's not, I'm too busy right now, right? There's never a right time. I think we all know that. I think we all know we're just busy indefinitely for the rest of our lives. So, right, we're never going to be fully ready. We're never going to know everything, and everything's never going to be perfect. So waiting for the right time to get from point A to point B is not going to get you there. But just starting without feeling ready is going to get you there eventually. And see, progress is not a straight line. Progress is up and down and back and forward in all kinds of directions. It's never a straight line when it comes to weight loss or any other health goals. There's always going to be ups and downs, but you just have to keep in mind, you just want forward progress, not perfection. And this quote we love, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start in order to be great. You have to just get started.
So true. Yep.
And the standard American diet, if you've ever heard this term, that's what we call it. And as you know, you can see it's also SAD for sad. We've become so accustomed to a world of highly processed convenience foods that eating real, whole, nutritious foods, fruits, vegetables, and the like, seems like strange, and that seems like dieting. So we have to lose that mentality that eating whole, real foods, fruits, vegetables, good proteins, healthy fats, whole grains, and lots of water, the basic foundations of nutrition, that is what normal eating should look like. That's what your normal eating pattern should include. So keep this in mind when we think about how you feel like you're on a diet if you're eating nutritious foods. So the habit overview, just to wrap up all the goal talk and habit talk we've talked about, just building awareness and identifying your cues. You've got to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Where can you break the chain for old habits that are not serving your health? What can you replace them with? Can you replace that habit with something that's aligned with health goals? And always keep it simple. Your brain is making changes to pathways and circuits. So that's why setting these giant goals and a bunch of goals, in January for New Year's doesn't work, and it's almost impossible to maintain. So you really have to keep it simple. And think about that long-term focus and your why, because we're a world of instant gratification. So don't let instant gratification make your decisions. Keep in mind your long-term goals and your why. Why are you doing this? And, along with saying goodbye to old habits, say goodbye to the all or nothing mentality. There's not just perfection and failure. That may cause you to abandon your goals when you come across a setback, because there's always going to be setbacks. So it's just, how are you going to handle those setbacks and continue to move forward and prepare when life gets in the way, because there's barriers are going to come at you. Unexpected things happen all the time. So again, just keeping some really good nutritious foods on hand. You've planned or prepped some things that can really help, and having this mindset of, all right, I'm just going to figure out what I can do for myself. What does my body need from me today?
And then setbacks. I think this is our last slide, but this is a huge part of goal setting and making any sort of progress. You will have a setback. You will have a day off. You'll have a day or maybe a few days where you feel like you're not on track, quote unquote. But setbacks really just teach us, okay, what's triggering us and where our vulnerabilities are, and what support and what structure do I need. So a setback is just a detour. It's not a dead end. So just remember that. And it's part of the process. Like Carly said, progress is not linear. It's important to pause and reflect, and it helps build self-awareness. Always come back to your why. If you're really feeling overwhelmed and upset with yourself and you feel like I've totally blown it, it's important to just reflect on, why did I start this in the first place? Like, why am I doing this?
You didn't blow it.
No, you didn't blow it. And focus
blow
on the next right action. Like Carly said, what's the next best thing I can do? I'm going to add an extra serving of vegetables at my lunch, or I'm going to go for a walk after dinner. Just get your mind back into it, and then celebrate the comeback. So there's no such thing as failure, but getting up again and trying again, that builds resilience. And so every reset strengthens consistency, and it helps push you into that new identity. So it's super important to remember that it's not a failure. Just move on if you can. Let it go.
Let go.
And we love this too, because you are worth the effort. So don't quit on you. You have all been here every week. I don't know, maybe some of you have been really trying at new things, trying to break old habits, add new habits. Whatever you do, do not quit, because this is your life. Your health matters. It's more than weight at the end of the day. You want to really make sure you're there for yourself, because we are our own biggest support systems at the end of the day. All we have is ourselves. So don't quit on you. That's our final quote. And then this is just a nice summary, right? So think about your mindset this week. Think about your why. Focus on what you can control and expect the setbacks. And maybe just have a plan in place for when you do have a setback. Journal or talk to a friend, or just get out of your own head because we overthink it. We overthink it and we don't need to make it so complicated. So if anyone wants to pop in the chat, if there's any small actions you want to start making this week or you want to commit to between now and next week, but I guess there is no next week, but just think about that for the next few weeks. But that's it. We did better than last week. We finished only 3 minutes overtime.
Last week was a big one.
So I hope everyone enjoyed our webinar series. We have upcoming webinars. We will be back. On March 11th, we're going to do a label reading and debunking nutrition myths, because I know there's so many of those out there. And then women's health, we're doing essentially the same thing we did with the weight every Wednesday at noon, but we'll do it on just women's health and, you know, talk a lot about hormones and different phases of womanhood. We know there's so many changes that go on.
The joy.
Yep. Don't we love the hormones? And then resources we have up on the site now is the tools that Carly was talking about, the ambivalence tool, confidence scale, a SMART goal setting sheet. And then one of our favorite videos is on atomic habits. It's up there as well if you wanted to watch that.
Good one for sure.
Yes.
And somebody said monthly check-in would be helpful. We agree. That's kind of why we are doing these weight loss webinars to gauge interest. We do hope to have more of a program in the future. It's hard right now. We don't have capabilities of documenting and tracking data and things like that that are important to pull off a program like that. But that is something we hope to do. And if you do feel like you need accountability, you can always have monthly, just individual sessions with us as well. We're happy to talk if you can't tell.
Yes.
From sessions.
I also meant to add that because this is our first series we've done, we have a little survey if any of you would be kind enough to fill it out. I'll put the link in the chat here. And if you're able to just, I think it takes 5 minutes, just write certain questions just so we know what works and what doesn't work. And then we can kind of tweak it based off your feedback.
Yeah.
So I will put that in the chat right now.
And some final thoughts again for those of you who obviously came here for weight loss advice, and maybe you didn't hear as much food talk as you thought you would, because there's no miracle of, you know, besides just basic solid eating. You have to get your nutrients in. That just makes your body work optimally. You have to get your nutrients in, and keeping it simple. Like we said, you need your vegetables, you need your proteins, you need your fiber, you need your healthy fat, and you need water. Those are nutrients that keep your body working. Restriction puts you into a very bad cycle of a mindset that's going to keep you stuck. You have to be aware of your habits and things like, again, weight loss versus fat loss. Those are not the same thing. We want fat loss and muscle gain. So we don't just want weight loss, we want fat loss and muscle gain. So that's important. So definitely consider your physical activity. And we're sorry we didn't get time to talk more about physical activity because that's important as well. And the rate of fat loss is slow. That's just how it is. It's going to be about maybe half a pound a week, maybe 1 pound a week. And then maybe 1 week you don't lose anything and maybe your weight goes up. And so it's, again, taking the focus off the scale and more focus on how you're feeling, how your clothes are fitting. Did you meet your nutrition needs that day? Did you give your body what it needs from you? And just keep going. Don't, like Kristen's quote said, don't quit on yourself. Even if you're not losing weight, you feel like you're at a plateau, just reassess. Okay, what am I doing? What is my day full of? Am I getting my nutrition that I need? That's different than the restriction mindset we all grew up with. And maybe there's, you know, something to change in your day, but don't give up when there's weight loss plateaus. Just keep up with your good, healthy habits, because again, being healthy, that's your longevity. Being healthy and feeling strong in your body, that's the best feeling.
Yeah. And that's a big piece. It's so much, it is, yes, the scale matters. I know that has links to health, you know, conditions, but feeling confident and feeling good about yourself is huge. We all know that. And when we get caught up in, I think someone had commented, like, it's easy to overthink all of this. And then we end up in this cycle of like, oh, now I feel overwhelmed and I give up. And, so just remember, if confidence is your end goal, or sorry, weight loss is your end goal, confidence needs to be like what you really want to feel from that, because that helps you achieve so much else. You do better at work and home and just, day to day. So it does take time.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. Glad you all enjoyed it.
There's any final questions? Somebody, I forget if we answered this. Somebody asked about signing up for the women's health webinars in April.
Oh, yes.
Those links will be posted. Yeah, the links are on our website. Pretty much everything is accessible on our employee intranet site. And again, it's not the most user-friendly, but it's what we have.
It is unfortunately hard to find. Well, it is simple. Once you memorize how to get there, you're good. I would just star the website, maybe like make it a favorite on your bookmark, home screen, and then you don't have to search for it every time. But
yeah. So think of it again. Mindset is everything. When you're trying to lose weight, you can't identify as someone who's on a diet who wants to lose weight. You have to identify as someone who's just going to build healthy habits and have a good, healthy foundation.
And letting go of your old identity, which is definitely tricky.
Oh, that's a good question. When you eat, what's the most important thing to eat first? I'd say protein and veggies are good. That goes with the optimized timing. We touched on that a little bit in the first webinar, but it is nice to start with the protein and the veggies first to get those in your digestive system. And that has a nicer effect on blood sugar. And then you can have the carbs after you've had the protein.
Yeah, tends to fill you up too. More fiber, more protein. Then you might end up eating less carbs, Not that carbs are bad, but we just need to be mindful of the balance.
Right. And that, having protein again, digest slowly. Like Kristen said, it helps keep you full. So that's a good thing to have first. If you're worried about dinner out or special occasion, it's just eat some protein first. And that can be really, really helpful.
Yep.
And we do mean protein from whole real foods when we say protein. Sometimes when I say protein and fiber, people think protein bars, protein shakes, fiber gummies. We mean food. We always mean food first. Because supplements are supplements. They're not instead of. So keep that in mind.
Good way to look at it. Yep.
Oh, an ideal breakfast idea. Okay, here is what I eat almost every morning for breakfast. I have my Greek yogurt. I have a Chobani 20-gram protein, 0 sugar Greek yogurt, and I put chia seeds in it. And I do that the night before, and I might add a little bit of milk just to give more liquid to the chia seeds because the chia seeds have to absorb. So by the time I wake up in the morning, I have this little breakfast with the chia seed and the yogurt that's about 30 grams of protein and 10 grams of fiber. And then I'll probably put berries on it too, just to add some extra antioxidants and fiber and general nutrition. And that keeps me full for a couple of hours. So something like that, where we're not running restaurants. If you wanted to make a big gourmet breakfast, you can, but I don't have time for that. So that's usually a decent breakfast. You could do some eggs and some whole wheat toast, so keep in mind, it's nice to get to that like 20-gram protein mark if you can. And just look at nutrition labels, which we'll talk about next week too, so that you can see where you're at. If what you're eating altogether is giving you enough of what you need. Cottage cheese is another good one. That's
I'm on a huge cottage cheese kick right now.
Packed with protein. I never liked it before. Suddenly, I can't get enough of it. So 1 cup of cottage cheese has like 25 to 30 grams of protein. That's a lot of protein. And again, if Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are nice sources of calcium, which is nice for our bones because that's something important too to take care of as we get older. So cottage cheese plus some fruit in there. The fruit you add yourself, not the one that comes with the cottage cheese, because that can be a lot of added sugar. So that's a good breakfast. And again, it doesn't have to be breakfast foods for breakfast. You could have like tuna salad on whole wheat toast for breakfast. And be done, so that's good.
Yeah. And I am a fan, like I do so someone just asked about the protein and the coffee. So
Hmm.
I use protein powder and protein shakes sometimes in the morning, exactly like what you're saying. If you're in a rush and you just need to get some protein, kind of make it more of like a plan B, and then plan A would be like food first. But you kind of have to do what you got to do and just start with like whole foods if you can, and then if you need to supplement, like Carly said, then go for
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
like to make overnight oats a lot with
Yeah.
protein powder because I personally just don't like yogurt in mine, but if I
Mhm.
liked yogurt, I'm sure I would do that first. Um, so yeah, but
Yeah.
everyone's
Yeah.
very
And
different, and start with what you can
right,
do.
start with what you can, and then eventually, with the coffee and protein powder, make it more of a meal. Like get some berries on the side if you can. Again, adding that fiber component is really important. And making that a habit could be really nice. Or making it more of a smoothie. If you're going to have a smoothie,
Yeah.
it should resemble a meal. It should have fiber and it should have protein in it and maybe some healthy fat. And you can accomplish that again by adding like a Fairlife type milk in if you want, because that's higher protein. Or, if you are doing, just FYI, almond milk is not a good source of protein. It just, almonds are really, really good for you, but almond milk is basically water.
It's
So
basically
don't
water.
look at that for protein. It really usually doesn't have any unless it's been added. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure there's a source of protein in a smoothie, a source of fiber. Add spinach to your smoothie. Just get that nutrition in there. Don't overload a smoothie with tons of fruit because that's just going to end up being
Mm,
a lot of sugar in your body at once. You wouldn't have eaten 5 or 6 pieces of fruit at one time. So do make sure you are making a smoothie resemble a meal.
yeah.
Well, someone asked about oat milk. Oat milk is okay. It's higher. Oats are carb. Again, not doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but just means it's a higher carb. So depending on what you're using the oat milk for, look at the nutrition label. Usually there's not a lot of protein in there. Usually there's a lot of carb in there. So again, if thinking about the plate and the balance, if you're going to use oat milk, then that's your carb. So make sure there's a protein in there too.
These are fun little questions. This is
I
what we
know,
wanted
I
to
know.
do
Yeah.
back in the beginning of the year. I was like, we should just do a Ask the Health Coach
Yes, we have so
webinar.
many ideas. We
Not
want to
that we
just
know
do like a
everything, but
Q&A. Yeah, we
we
definitely don't know
like
everything.
to, we are on top of what's the latest
Hmm.
trends and all that
Hmm.
stuff because it's important to know because people, you pick up on this stuff on social media, and
Right. There's a
there's
lot
so
out
much
there.
on social media. It can
So
just be
much. It's
the worst
overwhelming.
thing ever
Yeah.
for making change because you see one thing and then
Yeah.
you see the total opposite in the next video. It's
I
like, I
know.
don't
I know. So just
even,
know,
yeah,
keep it basic.
just
Keep
keep
it simple.
basic.
Fruits,
Back to the
vegetables,
foundation. Yep.
proteins, healthy
Yep.
fats, water.
Yep. Be nice to yourself.
Yes.
Don't stress. You've got this.
Hmm.
And ooh, one other thing we should really close with is, remember week 1, we really stressed what season of life are you in?
Hmm.
Because what your life is now may look different in 5 years, and it probably looked different 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So just embrace the life you're living now, the lifestyle you have, the responsibilities you have, and just go with it
Right.
because we can't change it.
Right. We're
Maybe some
lucky,
of it,
right?
but
If you're here, it's because you're alive and you're well enough to be on this webinar, and it's because you currently have a job, so already we're ahead of the game,
yep.
ahead of a lot of people. So this is life is a gift, right? And you just have to look at your body and love your body. Don't work against your body. Don't be negative to your body. Your body has gotten you through life, right? So you just want to love and respect your body and give it what it needs.
Yep. I know when you eat healthier, you feel great. It's so true.
You really do. It's kind of
You
amazing
know?
once you start your day with like a good solid protein and fiber,
Yep.
and you've got these habits as part of your routine, then your energy it really dictates your energy for the rest of the day.
Yep. Yep. Good. And someone just asked, is oatmeal a good breakfast item? What cereals are good? I think, well, so any cereal is still a carb. So just remember that. And then oatmeal in particular is, I mean, I think a great, just easier way to add your carbs to your meals in the
Mhm.
morning. And depending on what you're buying, I mean, I always say buy the oats as they are, try and avoid,
Old
the
fashioned
packaged
oats.
ones
Yeah.
with
Not
the
try not to do
seasonings
the
in them
instant, right?
because you don't want to have any added sugars per
Hmm.
se. And a lot of cereals you buy, like Cheerios or granolas and stuff, they do have added sugar. So just something to think about. But you want to look for fiber, make sure you got some good fiber in there and try and avoid like ingredients, if you will, like tons of ingredients on your sugar or on your cereal boxes. But what's that one cereal everyone's eating these days? What is that one called? Oh, Elizabeth's
Oh, I've heard, yeah,
granola.
I know what you mean.
What are your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear your
I
opinion
have to
before
look
I
at the
say mine.
nutrition label. It's expensive. That's why I
is.
don't get it.
Yes, I don't buy it either.
But it depends. Usually granola is usually carb and
Right.
usually has added sugar. So I'm always in the aisle looking at how much added sugar is in these things. What am I going to use this for? This is not going to
Yep.
be my main source.
And what measurement
So
am
I
I
usually
taking
look
here?
at the nutrition label on that one to see. I do, sometimes I have the Kashi protein and fiber cereal. It says protein and fiber right on the
Oh,
right
is
on
it
the
the
front
peanut butter
packaging, but
one?
we'll also teach you to look at the back too.
Yeah.
But keeping to the serving size is important when it comes, if you're going to have cereal, look at the serving size, but we'll go through this
Yes.
nutrition label. Stick to that and make sure there's protein in there with you. So if you're going to use milk, maybe it's a higher protein milk, like Lactaid makes a higher protein milk. Fairlife is a higher protein milk.
I love the
Have a
Fairlife
couple eggs on the
ones.
side. Balance out the carb, right? You don't want to have a breakfast that's just carbohydrate because that's going to wreck your energy the rest of the day. And that's going to make you hungrier, actually. So it's not that carbs are inherently bad for you. It's just a lot together is going to make you hungry and make you crave more carbs later in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone's very different. So yes, if you're a type 2 diabetic, like you're going to respond differently to heavier food items in carbs, but play around with portions. Like Carly said, make sure to have the protein in there, healthy fats. And it's honestly a lot of like understanding what works for you and what doesn't and just going with it.
Yeah.
These are great
Aldi. I'll have to get to Aldi has their own version. Aldi has like amazing versions.
Okay,
of
I
things.
love a deal. Yes. And I love anything that's under $5.
Check that out. Yeah.
Yeah. Groceries, man. Oh, they add up.
Expensive. Yeah. So I usually get like a big package of chicken on sale, the family size pack of chicken. And then I think I said this during meal prep, I just cook it. I cook a few pounds of chicken on the Sunday and then we pick from it and we use it in all different ways throughout the week.
Yep.
Oh, $3.99. That's a really good price for a Fairlife type milk. I will be going to Aldi today.
Yeah. My gosh. Yes, egg whites. Love egg whites. I get the cartons of egg whites and I go to town on that because it's easy protein. I mix it. I get them from Costco. And then if I really want a little bit of yolk flavoring, I'll take an egg, mix it in there to give it a little bit. But I really love the egg whites.
They're an easy way, to add protein for very little calories, for sure. And again, I don't want to encourage not eating the yolk. If you don't like the yolk, that's one thing, but the yolks do have lots of good nutrition, and they've debunked the theory that dietary cholesterol really is responsible for raising our blood cholesterol. So if you don't like the yolk, that's fine. If you do like the yolk, don't be afraid of it. I love a good runny yolk.
Yeah.
But then adding egg whites into your eggs is just, again, a helpful way to add more protein. And that can help pump you up to like the 20-gram protein mark.
Exactly. So I was doing 2 eggs for the longest time. And I was thinking, why am I doing 2 eggs? There's only 12 grams of protein, really.
Right.
So then I moved over to the egg whites and I've been feeling so much better in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So you're so much more protein.
True.
So
true. You really can feel a difference when you're giving your body what it needs. And as we get older, we're not using protein as efficiently. So that's why our needs get a little higher as we get older for protein. We got to make sure we're anchoring our meals with the protein, adding the fiber.
Yep. Well, this is so fun to do a little wrap up.
Yeah, we love talking about food, everybody. Like Kristen and I love all foods. But we really like making nutritious foods in a way that we really enjoy. 2 hard-boiled eggs, I think. Okay, so 2 hard-boiled eggs, that's about 12 grams of protein, no fiber. So you definitely want to add on to that. But I think hard-boiled eggs are a great snack. You can have those with some baby
Love those for
carrots,
snack.
fiber or protein right there.
Yep.
So you want to have something else on the side to make that a little bit more substantial and get like some berries on the side, or that's when you can have, a piece of whole grain toast. Look at the nutrition label. Whole grain toast usually has a few grams of fiber and a few grams of protein, just because the whole grain has the protein and the fiber. When you refine it, you're removing a lot of the protein and almost all the fiber sometimes. So 2 hard-boiled eggs is a great start, and I would add on to that.
Yep. And we have resources on the website for snack ideas and snack boxes and recipes for breakfast, sheet pan. We're trying to build to the website every week, but there is only 2 of us, so if it's slow, that's why.
Yeah.
But
That was one other question I saw. Do you eat desserts? Yes, we eat all the foods. My daughter just made a cake and we ate it and it was great. But it doesn't mean I do that all the time, right? So this is always a question I love. A lot of us grew up with dessert, right? Dessert was the reward. So if you feel like you have to have a dessert after you eat, ask yourself why. There's no wrong answer. It's not wrong to want a dessert. They're delicious. Have you eaten enough earlier in the day, making sure you've balanced your nutrients so that you're not starving and craving something by the end of the day? Desserts tricky. We're usually craving something sweet. So again, besides fruit, obviously fruit is sweet and is really good for you. There's what do you think, Kristen? There's all kinds of ways to, I'd say sometimes just eat the real thing and keep it a small portion. If that makes
I would
sense.
avoid pushing off cravings, but I usually would recommend get out of your head for a sec. Like if you find you're constantly reaching for dessert, just take a sec. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go do something, do laundry, do something. Like get out of your own head and then reassess, was I really hungry for that? Or did I, was it kind of more of a habit?
Yeah.
And even if you do all that and still go back and have dessert, that's okay. But then like Carly said, try and make it not like an everyday thing. Try and pick and choose and, enjoy it and not
savor
feel
if you're,
guilty
when you
or
have those
anything.
foods, right? Make sure you're savoring them. Make sure you're not just eating a whole tray of brownies because you've restricted yourself and it's taboo and you're like, I have to hurry up and eat this. Just have a brownie and just like savor it and enjoy the taste. Make sure you're taking your time and really enjoying the experience because that's important. And again, making sure you don't have to finish the whole bag. You can have some more brownies later. Just enjoy what you have. There are lots of recipes if it's hard because when there's a lot of things advertised as low calorie desserts, which are just a bunch of chemicals that are, sugar-free stuff that's not great for you. So that's actually not an easy question to answer. I do make some homemade little mini cheesecakes sometimes that have Greek yogurt in them, and a little bit of cream cheese, that taste cheesecakey. So things like that, or like little energy balls or protein balls. Sometimes those can taste good too. So I think
drinking
when
a
it
lot
comes
of water
to dessert,
too.
What'd you say?
Just like making sure you're drinking lots of water.
Yeah.
Which can be difficult for some people at night because they don't want to be up all night to go to the bathroom.
Right.
But really just understand your habits and what you feel like you want to work on and just start thinking of some alternatives. But definitely reach out to us if you want to meet one-on-one and we can
help
it out.
Because it is nice if you can be done with dinner and done eating for the evening. That can be helpful for weight management when it comes to circadian rhythms. And that as well. So again, examining like, okay, am I having dessert just because it's a habit and like I'm just craving that, am I reaching for that for emotional or stress reasons? There's no wrong answer for sure. And then there are certainly some recipes we can help you find if you're interested.
Yeah.
And tahini seasoning. Yeah, season your veggies. They don't need to be steamed and bland. And there's so many other interesting things besides salt, and it doesn't mean you can't use salt, but just find some good seasonings and make your food taste good. I put hot sauce on my eggs. I put Cholula on my eggs. I love it.
I can't remember. I was working with an employee who told me to add basil to my eggs, and I have never looked back. It is so good.
That sounds amazing.
It just gives it, because I used to be, I like cheese in my eggs, and I started being like, okay, I'm gonna watch the cheese, even it's a little too much for my liking. So I started doing basil. So good.
That sounds delicious.
So
All
good.
those herbs and spices, so
Yeah.
good and so tasty.
Yeah, it gives it a little kick.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that. Sounds delish.
Yeah. But I am scared this is going to end because it's reaching the hour mark.
Oh,
I'm
right.
scared
I
she's going to
wonder.
crash. So I think we should maybe just wrap her up.
Wrap it up for now.
And again, any questions, let us know. I've been getting some notifications that you are doing the survey, so thank you very
Hey,
much.
thank you.
And see you all in March, maybe for our label reading.
Take good care of yourselves, everybody.
Yes, please do. Bye.
Bye.